back, everybody. It is Black Panther review time. I'm Ash Crossan, joined by our resident Black Panther reviewer, Angelique Jackson. Thanks for coming. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here. The film is simply legendary. Now, I called it inexpressibly beautiful because I was being really, really extra on Twitter, but it really is a film that is iconic. I think that it's a great step forward in the MCU and a great introduction. Watching this film was a complete experience, and it was an experience as a Black person, seeing this many African people, people of color, Black people on the screen, and that's what most people are going to be talking about coming into the film. Because it is Marvel's first standalone film featuring a Black superhero. We got to meet Black Panther, of course, in Civil War, but this is a movie that is all about the people of Wakanda. And I think it's very important that Marvel is having this at this time. I mean, obviously the film is coming out in February. It's Black History Month. It couldn't really be a better moment. But also it's coming forth during a time where we're talking a lot about race in our country and in the world. And it's a really great representation of the culture. And for little kids everywhere to want to dress up as Black Panther, Black, white, I mean, everyone across the board is excited about this film.
Was there a moment in a spoiler-free sense that you were watching it and you were like, wow, this is a moment that means so much to me?
I think the moment that was the most important were probably the scene at the waterfall, when you can just see scores and scores of Black people. And it's beautiful because the film takes place in Africa, that's where Wakanda is, but they didn't necessarily have to do that. They could have tried to do something else with this film altogether, but they stuck so true to the story and made it a really important plot point to feature everyone in this way.
I also want to talk about the director for a minute, because we've got Ryan Coogler here, who is a genius,
Absolutely.
as we know, but he is 31 years old, directing a Marvel film. I believe, unless there's somebody I'm not thinking about, he's the youngest Marvel Cinematic Universe director.
I think you are correct on that, for sure. And what's interesting about it is that Marvel went to a number of other minority directors, including Ava DuVernay, John Singleton, and F. Gary Gray, before eventually landing on Ryan Coogler as a director. This is a film that has been in the works really since the 90s, when Wesley Snipes said he wanted to play Black Panther. So it's really cool to see that it landed with this young director who is really getting a chance to prove himself and show what he can do to the audience. And something also that's cool about having Ryan Coogler do this film was that support that he got from all of those directors that we mentioned previously at the premiere. They were all there because they all wanted to see what he did with this story.
So I saw the movie at a screening on the Disney lot, which was lovely. But you were at the premiere.
I was very lucky to be amongst the first, alongside you, to see the film, but I got to see it with the cast, with so many of the celebrity guests. And it was just an experience from start to finish. Everyone was gasping, cheering, laughing throughout the entire film. And I mean, Ryan Coogler got a standing ovation in the Dolby Theater before anything even came up on screen. Just him walking out was simply that exciting.
Oh my gosh, I can't even, like, just watching that red carpet and seeing what everyone was wearing, it was just so, like...
Now, let's talk about the red carpet for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because they said royal attire, and they really showed up and showed out. Everyone on that carpet was wearing the most glamorous colors, as much traditional African garb as they could come up with. It was a really beautiful sight to see, and to see it be done in such a high fashion way was really exciting.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive into some of the more specifics of the movie, the characters and whatnot, starting with T'Challa, our Black Panther, our king. What did you make of, like, his character progression in this movie versus what the character that we met in Civil War?
I actually just rewatched Civil War, trying to get
I did too, yesterday.
Same, I watched it last night. I was trying to get kind of like a scope of how we got introduced to T'Challa. And he was always very regal in posture and seemed like he was a very, like, put together guy. But what is great about this film is it really takes him through that personal journey of becoming king. Because in Civil War, we see him a lot wanting to enact vengeance for his father's death, and that's really what it's all about. This is him coming into his own as a man, as a king. At one point, there's a line to describe T'Challa saying that he is a good man with a good heart, and it's hard for a good man to be king. And that's kind of what he's trying to overcome and figure out, who should I surround myself with? How do I make these decisions? How do I live up to my father's legacy but you know, advance things forward.
Yeah.
And it's kind of why this movie works so well, I think, is because it's a very universal story in that way, because it is really just a story of this guy growing up and coming into his power.
Let's talk about the villain of the movie.
Oh my God,
One of the villains.
bless up.
We've got Erik Killmonger.
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler's darling.
I mean, listen, we were all really excited to see Ryan and Michael team up again. Of course, they worked together on Fruitvale Station and Creed. We know that Michael's an amazing actor, but he takes this villain level to a whole other level. Michael B. Jordan said that he actually looked to Heath Ledger for inspiration while playing this character, and we all know that Heath won the posthumous Oscar for playing the Joker in The Dark Knight. And it's a really bold prediction, but he is good enough that he could be in that kind of consideration next February, I feel like.
I agree with you. I really wish, I mean, I get frustrated with the Academy every year with, like, you know, they pick the Oscar bait movies, and I'm like, some of these performances are amazing, and I really hope that that performance is recognized at least one award show. Because it definitely deserves it. And I mean, my biggest criticism of every Marvel movie is pretty much the villain.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they have these big world domination villains that just want to take over the world for whatever vindictive reason they have.
It's very cartoonish.
And this one was just so grounded, and you understood all his motives, and it was really sad, it was really political, and it was, but in a good way, not in like a, ugh, it's political. It's like, no, it's good political. But it was like you wept for this person that is you're supposed to be rooting against.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of the genius of his portrayal, because you get that he has a backstory, he has reasons. Everything that he's doing is because of his background, and I think that's also what makes him a good foe for T'Challa, is because well, Michael's been, you know, going around saying that it's like Professor X and Magneto, where they both want to achieve the same goal and have crazily different methods for doing it. And Erik Killmonger is very militant about what he wants to have happen moving forward. And T'Challa's different. He has to be more diplomatic, and it's really interesting him having to deal with that so early on in becoming king, because it really forces him to decide, this is the kind of king I want to be.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like, he's a terrible person, but
no,
like,
but he's awesome.
But he's so good. Oh my God. Because you know, I think about the other Marvel villains. It's like, people love Loki, of course, and I liked Vulture in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it's like, why do you like them versus the other villains? It's because their stakes are so much smaller. It's like this small, like, I just want to the stakes are real. I'm trying not to say what exactly he wants, but the stakes are real. They're grounded in reality versus being like, I just want the world to be mine and all the Avengers to die.
Exactly. That's and that really is the key here, is having that realistic portrayal. And I think that also grounds the story too, because the world of Wakanda seems so far-fetched, and it seems so far off from our world today.
But kind of not at the same time.
Totally. Totally. I know. Please go on.
No, I just felt like it's such this you know, the whole premise of Wakanda is it's this hidden high-tech world that, you know, no one really knows about. Like, Wakanda is seen to the rest of the world as a third world country that, you know, doesn't have anything, and then you go into it, it's kind of hidden, and it has the best tech in the
literally
universe.
Everything. Anything you could ever imagine is in Wakanda.
Is in Wakanda, but they keep it to themselves because they can't get involved in your politics.
They're very much Switzerland, and eventually Switzerland might have to get involved.
Yes.
Sorry.
But no, it was like, it's this kind of crazy concept, but it's also grounded in this very real thing, especially when they start to get political with it. You just start comparing it to things that you're like, yeah, Switzerland.
And it's really, I think, important to do that, because they could have made it so fantastical and so over the top, and I think making it grounded is also what's going to make it timeless. Hopefully. I mean, well, actually, hopefully a lot of the issues that it's addressing in the film aren't issues in the future, but if they are, and just from a historical perspective, I think it's really important to just show it and let it be, versus make it something that was kind of like wild and crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, besides these men that are great, we also have some very, very badass, kick-ass, amazing women, some of the best Marvel female characters ever.
I feel like that, for me, aside from just seeing the representation of Black people, was the most important element of this film. Obviously, it's about Black Panther. It's about these two men at odds, but behind them and really next to them are these women who are fully realized in every way. They're strong, they're beautiful, they're incredibly intelligent, and they also have the ability to love and be in love, and if that's part of their journey, that's great. It doesn't have to be one or the other with these women. And all of these actresses, I mean, from the moment that they announced the cast, from Angela Bassett and Lupita Nyong'o, everyone was said, oh, okay, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, no, it's like, when I'm watching the movie, it's like the character of T'Challa is very important, and it's like, you know, the titular character of the movie. But at the same time, my focus was on all of these women that were standing next to him, as you said. Specifically, well, there's three, but let's talk about Shuri first of all.
Yes.
Played by Letitia Wright. She is the smartest person in the universe?
I think probably in the universe, not just in Wakanda, but straight up in the universe. Shuri is the tech goddess and actually the princess of Wakanda, which makes her a Disney princess. Let's just note that.
Oh my God, that's true.
I mean, how cool, right? So she is just a brilliant mind who is, you know, using that vibranium to Wakanda's advantage.
I believe she's 16 years old, but yeah, she's definitely like smarter than Bruce Banner and Tony Stark.
Definitely, they could learn something from her. Can you imagine that brain trust?
That's what I want, is in Infinity War for them to be like, we need like some help, and then
she comes in and
like, I know somebody, and then Bruce Banner and Tony Stark are just like,
she just like makes them her minions. She's like, fetch me this, get that, because I mean she's so incredibly brilliant and so funny.
Yeah.
And what I also liked about Shuri was that she really feels like the Q to T'Challa's James Bond. I mean, obviously they have that brother-sister relationship, but she is the most brilliant technician, and it's really nice to see her going around the lab and kind of showing off her wares. It is not all politics, it is not all seriousness, it's not all action. It is really funny, and Letitia does a brilliant job acting alongside Chadwick and making their scenes light. You know, the brother and sister.
I mean, you see that little handshake that they have going on in the trailer. It's like,
You've gifted a million times, I know.
Most gifable moment came from Okoye in the casino, best fighter in the Marvel universe again, I swear.
I seriously think she was fighting in like fast forward. I've never seen anyone move as quickly as Denai does in this film, and it's absolutely insane. She is just bonkers good. But one thing I will say about that scene is it's also really impressive for the director and the cinematographer, because I swear to you, there are some of the craziest camera moves in that scene. Lots of unbroken takes, and that's, you know, I wanted to give a shout out to that Rachel Morrison and her Oscar nomination, who also shot Black Panther.
Yeah, and there's a lot of camera movements in that movie that were just really like mind-blowing to me. This one's in the trailer, but when he's like walking to the throne and it's upside down, oh my God, beautiful. Okay, so with Okoye, I love her because she's not a superhero.
Totally.
You know, but she is, in my opinion. What would you like to see from her in future films?
It's a really good question. I would love to see more in general from the Dora Milaje. Obviously, she's the general. She commands this force of amazing, badass women who are essentially the bodyguards to the king. I mean, how cool is it to see this group of these beautiful, in this case, bald Black women with these spears that fight together, supporting Wakanda, and that they are the main warrior force. I mean, we're seeing that a lot more in comics, and that's been part of the universe always, but it's really cool to see it on the screen.
Absolutely.
But let's not overshadow Nakia.
Let's not.
You know, Lupita Nyong'o is an Oscar winner, brought a lot of clout to this film. But she's a war dog. She's a spy. She gets to kind of show off a different side than I feel like the Lupita we all know. I mean, yeah, she can still rock like a crazy, beautiful gown, but she's also badass and really smart and savvy and loves to be out in the world.
Mm-hmm. And that all really culminates and pays off for that character. Like, you see her kind of building and being like, is she just like someone he likes?
Totally.
Like,
no. No, she's way more than just a love interest, people.
Do you have any criticisms of the film?
My only criticism, I feel like I kind of mentioned a moment ago, is that it's 134 minutes long, and there's a lot in there. There's a lot to unpack. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but there are definitely moments where you're like, oh, this could have been the end, this could have been the end, this could have been the end, this could have been the end. But when you think about it, there was no guarantee of a second movie, truly. I mean, they can always cancel things that are on the slate. But I think they just threw everything, every bit of lore in there that they could, and I thought that, you know, while it's long, you know, it's still brilliant.
It's definitely long. I mean, not just Black Panther. It's like a lot of these blockbuster movies are long, because I'm always like, no movie should be over 2 hours.
No.
But I think I need to see it again, because it's the same thing I had with The Last Jedi, where like you're watching it and they're going back and forth between all of these plot points that are going to eventually culminate at the end. Or at the climax, right? And you're kind of like, okay, when are we gonna get there? When are we gonna get there? So when they keep cutting back to somewhere where you've been before, you start feeling that pacing issue where you're just like, oh my God, we're back here again.
You're like, we still haven't gotten to the point.
But then, you know, when movies are like that and I go back and watch them, I'm like, oh, this is very important because we need A and B to be able to get to C, and this is a very good character moment for this person. So I kind of want to watch it again with that lens of knowing how things are going to come together and knowing that this kind of slower moment is very, very important, and here's why.
Actually, that is very true, because the whole film is a lot of, you know, callbacks or flash forwards, if you will, if you notice that things are, you know, nice foreshadowings to what's to come. But yeah, it does, a few times when you're going back and forth, you're like, we could have just stayed here instead of going here, but you realize that it is all part of that master plan.
Meanwhile, during this entire movie, we have a soundtrack and a score that is wonderful.
Absolutely incredible music, and not just because Ryan, of course, has worked with his composer in all of his films, but because somehow he enlisted Kendrick Lamar, K-Dot people, to do the soundtrack, to curate the soundtrack for Black Panther. I feel like people were excited about the movie, people were excited about the casting, and then when the news came that Kendrick Lamar was going to be a part of this, everybody just like exploded. Like I think everyone's head just went poof.
Spoiler free, if you can't say it, just be like kind of vague about it. What was the most emotional moment of the whole movie for you? There's a moment with like a sunrise, or is it a sunset? I'm not sure. There's a moment with the sun, where I literally was weeping.
Yeah, that is the correct response to that moment. I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel like for me, another great moment was there's a scene with Okoye and Nakia, and they're really kind of hashing out their place in this, in all of this, as women and as members of Wakanda.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool because, like I said, these women are so fully realized. They actually get to have this minute between the two of each other that is really equal to what equal in ideology to what I feel with Killmonger and T'Challa, because it's not an argument about like who's better or who's this, but it's like, what is the best step forward for us?
Right.
And I just thought it was cool to get to see two women just have that.
That's also what we call passing the Bechdel test.
Yes.
Which was
Yay,
nice.
Good job, Black Panther. Yay. We're really proud. Representation all across the board.
So for you, at the moment, and it's kind of like when you're coming off just seeing a movie, you're like, it's the best movie I've ever seen in my life, but do you have a current ranking of where Black Panther ranks for you in the MCU?
So I don't have like an actual ranking of my MCU films, but I would 100% put this in the top 5. There was actually a moment right after I left the theater where I was like, is this the best MCU movie ever? I'm not positive that it is, but it is so brilliant and it's so important that I think it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the best. I mean, every moment of any movie is not going to be perfect, but I thought this was pretty darn close.
Pretty darn good. I kind of do the same thing. Like I don't rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I kind of do like these movies mean a lot to me. These ones are more action-y, but not my favorites. Mine kind of go like phase 1, 2, 3, but phase 2, 3, 1,
totally.
2, 1, 3. But I kind of put it with like Doctor Strange, Guardians, and which one am I not thinking of? Thor, Ragnarok.
Thor. Yes, my top 5 includes many of those: Thor, Doctor Strange, Guardians. The first Guardians, even though the second Guardians makes me bawl my eyes out, like just uncontrollably. And then for me, Civil War. I just love seeing.
Oh, we were talking about this before because I'm Winter Soldier, Civil
War.
War.
And most people think I don't have taste, and that's fair.
You know what? I like A New Hope better than Empire, and everyone lights me up.
I agree.
Well, I think that's about all the non-spoilery things that we could cover.
I think so. I mean, everything's a spoiler, and you can't even explain it. I've been bothering Daniel Kaluuya for a solid year about
I saw your...
like what to do. Like, can you give me a taste? Can you give me a tease? And he kept telling me no. He kept being like, you don't want to know.
Sterling K. Brown did the same thing to me.
Absolutely, and they're right. They're 100% right. Don't watch or too much before you go in. Let yourself be surprised, but it's worth it.
Yeah, well, I think what we can only do at this point is that I invite you back to do the spoiler episode, because I think we need to have one where we can really dive into some things that we were like really trying
so hard not to tell you guys. But I'm so excited to come back. Thank you for letting me join you. I'm so excited.
Let everyone know where they can find your stuff, and of course, Angelique does have a review that is up right now on etonline.com.
Yes, read this review. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. I promise I will reply. And watch this girl. She's great.
Watch me. And of course, like all Marvel movies, stay for the credits. There's 2 scenes, and we will talk about them in the spoiler video. If you want to see that, let us know in the comments. Hit subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for watching.